Even one down the sideline, and he's got Kaylin Moore over the top. Big side, down the sideline. Touchdown. His signature move and his signature performance. Allen, big ball one more time. 58 yards this time.
You're listening to the Bruin Bible. This is your host, Will Decker, bringing you UCLA football content all throughout the year for LA Football Network. What is up, and welcome to another edition of the Bruin Bible. Will Decker, your host. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing the podcast. We are brought to you guys today by our advertisers. Our advertisers are Bell to Bell Fitness, Shea Tor, a realtor out in Arizona, former Bruin alum, and my main man, Howard Chang, a realtor right here in Los Angeles. Let's go through them, guys. Bell to Bell Fitness is a boxing gym on the West Coast used by their FIT acronym, Fight Inspired Training. My main man, Tony Gonzalez, was the boxing coach for UCLA for over 10 years. He has built this gym on the West Side to learn how to boxing, stay in shape, and get you all the essentials you need to become somebody that is obsessed with boxing and fitness. Make sure to check it out. Go into Bell to Bell Fitness and say you heard about it from the Bruin Bible, and you're going to get a free session with Tony Gonzalez. So make sure to check that out. Shea Tor, my main man. Shea Tor is a licensed real estate agent in Arizona and a lifelong Bruin. He's a current Wooden Athletic Fund donor and football season ticket holder. When not selling houses or going to UCLA games, he loves to travel the country, checking out different arenas, ballparks, and stadiums. If you're looking to make the move to Arizona or know someone who is, please reach out to our loyal friend, Mr. Shea Tor. His phone number is 602-487-3975. Once again, his number is 602-487-3975. Make sure to check that out. And then the local realtor we got out here, Howard Chang. Howard Chang is a local realtor with the Serene team at eXp Realty. Their team has an office right here in Culver City, though they help clients buy and sell homes all over the LA County and the surrounding areas. Howard and his team do a ton of business and are super in tune with the market, knowing winning strategies to give their clients a competitive advantage, have amazing vendor referrals, are a one-stop shop for anything real estate, and just provide a ton of value for their clients. Howard and his partner, Kyle Draper, are UCLA alums and a huge fans of the UCLA football and basketball programs. You will often see them at games, tailgating and networking, and staying involved with the UCLA alumni community. They would love to help any fellow alumni with accomplishing their real estate goals. So if you guys have any real estate needs in the LA area, look no further. Howard is your guy. All right. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the latest edition of the Bruin Bible. To my right, you guys may recognize this man. He is often a guy that is requested to come on here. We like to dub it here at the Cook crossover. Mr. Wayne Cook in the house. Wayne, how are we doing on this fine Tuesday evening, knowing that the Bruins are killing it on everything on the recruiting trail?
Well, I'm telling you, man. First of all, Will, we're killing it in everything. It's like it's the only thing that we're not killing it in, and I don't want to be a buzzkill, is the whole Cal fiasco is making me sick to my stomach because UCLA's winning in water polo. You know, we're winning in volleyball. We're winning in, we're doing all that. Our softball team just won a championship. The basketball team just revamped its entire team. We talked about that last time I was on. The football team is recruiting out of its mind. We just landed a commit from a really big-time running back in Karson Cox. So many good things are happening. There's so much hype around UCLA, and then to get this whole, by the way, that other school that hasn't taken care of its business, we're going to have to float 10 grand. I wish it was 10 grand, 10 million a year to those guys for the foreseeable future. And I'm like, dude, why would you do this? Like, why would UCLA was, and again, I know that we just talked and I already went off on a tangent and I'm not even talking about what we said we were going to talk about. But like the idea is that UCLA, in very UCLA fashion, has been out ahead of this. They saw the writing on the wall. The Pac-12 was going in the wrong direction. It was going to be hard to salvage, just like what's happening to so many other conferences right now. And UCLA, because it's not reactionary, it was proactive, which I teach my kids in the classroom. Don't be reactive, be proactive. We got out in front of it. We did everything right. I know people say, well, you killed the Pac-12. No, we didn't. The Pac-12 was already dying, and it sucks. It shouldn't have. I love the Pac-12. I'm not being negative. But UCLA did what it had to do, and to try to get itself financially right and all that good stuff. And so many things are going well, and then this happens. You know what though? We'll overcome it. Okay, now back to what you set me up for. As far as what's happening right now, and this is something, Will, that I've been thinking about forever. We needed, and I've said this before, like, Chip Kelly and I got along great. Okay, Jim Moore and I got along great. Carl Durrell and I got along great. But even going back all the way to Carl Durrell, sometimes he didn't use his platform in front of a microphone the way he should have. He didn't use his opportunities. He just wanted to coach and kind of keep his head down and do the. Now, Rick, love the microphone. We know that. But like, you have to, what DeShaun's doing right now, every time I open my phone, I see that video of the hype UCLA with the Westwood and the fans cheering, and every freaking coach is posting it almost every day. And then I turn on my phone 10 minutes later and I look again, and the next thing you know, I see On the Road, and I see the coaches, and I see everywhere they're at. I see nothing but high school coaches coaching. Thanks for UCLA for showing up to our school today. Okay, we're offering scholarships to high school kids, like lots of them. And what's really cool is if you've listened to DeShaun Foster, who, by the way, is the orchestrator of all of this. Yeah. It's happening on social media. It's happening with the media. He's befriended all the media, and he's got them on our side, at least right now. Okay, and I've seen nothing but positive stuff. Okay, there's so much good stuff happening right now. People don't remember UCLA, when in the 80s and 90s, we were top 10, recruiting classes in our sleep. We had them all the time. And it was like, it's UCLA, it's awesome. But in the modern world, you have to do more. There's social media. There's every time you're in front of a camera, every time you get a chance to go on TV, every time a kid and their family sees UCLA, they're like, man, that school's right over there. That's a stone's throw away from my parents. They can come to every home game. Like, and if you live somewhere where it's freezing, that's LA. That's where I watch the Rose Bowl every year, and it's sunny in January. Like, we're hyping the UCLA football program like we haven't done in a long time. And everybody's on board. This is a complete team effort. And I guarantee you, I didn't talk to DeShaun about this, but it's required. This is what we are doing. And the coaches, to their credit, have just bought in. And you hear players, Will, when they say things like, something's different at UCLA right now. Something's different at UCLA right now. And when kids talk, and we all know they do, they all go to camps together. They all do 7-on-7 together. They all know each other. And they're talking about what's going on at UCLA, this coaching staff and the hype and how much fun it is. And so you got to give credit to DeShaun Foster and their staff for doing something that to me has seemed obvious for a while, like we needed to do more of this. But it's just being done in such the perfect way that I hope all UCLA fans are feeling it, because it's exciting. It's exciting to hear about all these offers. And I'll say one more thing, Will. What's also fun, and we know that DeShaun Foster has talked to us about competition. This is what I love. We're going to talk about this later, but we're bringing in quarterbacks, right? And then we also have running backs coming in. We also have, because remember, we recruited guys last year too. And then you talk about possible recruits that we've offered scholarships for. Here's what's weird about college football now. If you end up with 6 or 7 4-star, or maybe not 6 or 7, but 5 or 6 4-star quarterbacks, you can actually go to a school, and if you're really the type of player that UCLA wants, you think you're good enough to win that job. Like, all these guys are thinking, like, I'm going to come in, and when Garbers goes, because it's been very clear that Garbers is the guy going into next year, I'm going to be the starter. And if you lose out on that opportunity, let's be honest, there are opportunities to go somewhere else. I think that's kind of the cool thing about, like, same with running backs. You get 5-6 running backs in the room, and they're all really, really good. You can only play so many guys, which down the road may give them opportunities to move on and go somewhere else. But I like that if you want to come here, you're going to compete. I heard a recruit say that. They are preaching competition. That's how you get good. Remember and I hate to bring this up, remember the Pete Carroll years, how much they talked about competition?
Oh, he lived and breathed it, man. Yeah.
But we have to give them credit. That was a great era for them in college football. And they had so many good athletes that you had to show up or you weren't going to play. When you only have one starter and then there's a big gap after that, that does not breed competition. And that also makes you so thin that if someone gets hurt, you're in trouble. So I love what's happening right now. There's so much positive stuff. I know the schedule's a bear the next year. I'm not going to be unrealistic, but this is the way UCLA should be. It's an awesome destination. It's a great place. All those people that are acting like, oh, it's just UCLA. Yeah, we got 123 national championships. You guys can go fly a kite. We're really good at sports, okay? And we're also really good at football, and we're going to be really good at football.
Yeah, and it's so encouraging, man. Like you mentioned, just the whole like coaching staff on board with the recruiting. We know where these guys are at recruiting. It's kind of like a known secret. So if some of these high school coaches see that a Jerry Neuheisel is going to be in Arizona or Utah, or a Tim White's going to be out there in Oregon or Washington, whatever it may be, these coaches can feel free to contact them and get them into these places to help them recruit their own, talent at hold there. And, I just don't remember this happening under the Chip Kelly era, like at all, these certain things. And it's so awesome to see UCLA going all in on that area because there's so much good happening.
And I need to keep reminding people of this. And this is what's so exciting to me. No, I heard a lot of stories. Chip Kelly, he never was there, or he didn't do this, or he didn't do that, or he wasn't recruiting the high school kids and whatever. And we still had a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense in the last 2 years. Last year was a top 10 defense. The year before that was a top 10 offense. So I want everybody to think about that for a second. Just let that sink in. If we can still go out and get transfers, and we are still getting transfers, we're adding so much depth. For you brought it up earlier to the secondary, for example, with the player from Cal. We're adding depth, and those guys aren't guaranteed to start now because we have enough depth to where there's going to be competition. Like you're going to come in here, you're going to have to compete if you want to play. You're adding depth, so if you can keep recruiting the transfer portal and add the excitement of we're going to go after the best high school players around. We're going to go get that 4-star running back from Hesperia. Am I right there? The Karson Cox kid. Where is he from? Do you remember?
Yeah, Hesperia area. Yes, he is.
I could, even if I'm wrong, I apologize. I watched all the videos. The guy looks like a grown man already. Okay, and a big time player. Like we're going to be able to do that, and when you can do both, we're talking about taking those top 10 offense, top 10 defense that we had before, and then adding that depth, adding those recruiting classes that are coming in and they're going to be with you for a while. Now, the problem is that with all this depth, you are going to lose some pieces along the way probably. But either way, I'm blown away, and I agree with you. We've been close to being really good, and it feels like we're trying to take that next step to get to the point where we want to be at the top. Like, listen, I always said this when I played at UCLA. Like we should be competing for a conference championship every year. Did we always do it? No. We had a couple of years where we had a lot of injuries and things didn't work out, and that's fine. But we were good enough when we were healthy to compete for a conference championship. And I think that most UCLA fans out there would be like, yeah, if we could go into the Big Ten and end up being one of those teams fighting for those playoff spots, I think we'd be pretty excited.
Oh my gosh, I think so as well. And just to kind of pinpoint, that thing you said about competition, UCLA added a starting caliber, corner coming in. Kaylin Moore, close to 20 starts in his career, played for Colorado and Cal. And, just on our last time speaking, Wayne, about the spring showcase, we talked about how the secondary group's kind of underrated when it comes to what this unit could potentially be. Davies, Kirkwood, very established guys. You got Kayvon Wallace in the slot, Jameer Benjamin. Why not add another guy to that room, especially a position of, extreme need, when it comes to the secondary as a whole, because these guys, it's the toughest position in football, in my opinion, right there with quarterback, as you're on an island a lot of these times, and you're the only person you can rely on to make a play. A lot of these guys are going to need that. We've seen sometimes the confidence wanes with some of these guys out there in the secondary. Adding a guy with fresh legs that you could bring into some of these games, I mean, with close to 20 starts to his name, has been very productive, very solid. That's just another addition to the secondary where you're feeling like, hey, worst case scenario, if one of these guys does unfortunately get hurt, we got a guy that can come in right away and really not lose that much ability when it comes to the starting cornerback position. Talk to me about your opinion of adding more to already a pretty deep group when it comes to UCLA secondary.
Well, again, I mean, I always want to be at a school where, if you're coming in, I don't care if you're a transfer or a freshman, you want to be looking at, like, it's so funny. When we were out at the spring game, I was laughing because I played I played scout team quarterback, one of those wonderful trophies in the background that I have sitting back there, my wonderful, arrogant display of the good old days, my glory days. I won Scout Team Player of the Year for my first year when I thought I was dog crap because I was a Scout Team player, right? It's the first time in your life, for most of us, we're not starters. But I looked out and I saw Eric Turner. I saw Carlton Gray. I saw players like Roman Pfeiffer. I saw players like Matt Darby. I saw these guys and I was just like, these guys are all pros. Like every one of them went on and played in the NFL. I mean, all these guys, and I didn't even mention all of them. And they're just such good. Deion Lambert, a guy that I love. I see him all the time. He was another one. These guys all played in the NFL, and I got to go up against them as freshmen. But if you were a freshman coming into that program and you looked at that, those guys were all established players. You had to compete your butt off if you wanted to play. And trust me, as soon as those guys left, we had another group of great Marvin Goodwin and Carl Greenwood. And we had dudes that went on and played in the NFL also and led us to a Rose Bowl. That's what you want at a program. So when you go out and get a player at Cal, like Kaylin Moore, who started for Colorado, who was more of a nickel with Cal, but again, did some really good things. And by the way, he's another kid that's coming home, right? He's a kid that's coming back to Southern California to be closer to home. It just adds that depth. You've got a guy that can play nickel, he can play corner. I mean, like we know this. Players get hurt. You just said it. You have to have depth. And guess what? Here's the great news about college sports. If he comes in and he's better than the guys that we've already got, then he starts. And that's what I've always loved about sports. That bothers me about everything else in life. Like it should be perfectly fair in sports. This is why I struggled last year with the Dante Moore thing. I struggled all year with him. I'm going to be honest. I don't hate Dante Moore. I like Dante Moore. I got to talk to him quite a bit. I like him. He was not ready. And we had another quarterback that was better than him. And for whatever reason, we didn't play the best player. And that killed me. I'm like, that was at least two wins last year. To have a more experienced quarterback that's not throwing pick sixes. And again, he's a freshman. Freshmen do that. Go back and look at some of the great quarterbacks from UCLA's past that were forced to play as freshmen. They threw a lot of interceptions. And it happens. I don't care if it's Drew Olson. I don't care if it's Tommy Maddox. I don't care if it's Caden McNown. And those guys went on to be great players. But when you're young, you just don't see the field the way an older quarterback does. And so we made a huge mistake. So my whole thing is, and I struggled with this all year last year, you play the best player. I don't care how much money he's getting. I don't care if you really can look your players in the eye, Will. Yeah, they all know who the best player is. We practice against him every day. If you're going to play another guy because he has more stars next to his name or more dollar signs next to his name, that's not the way to win football games. You play the best player. That best player is a walk-on, you play him. If that best player is a two-star, you play him. And I love that. We saw that last year with Alex Johnson. I loved how much he got to play as a guy that was a form. We've done that a lot at UCLA. So that's what I like about this pickup. It just adds more depth to a unit that I think is already going to be good.
Yeah, man. And I crave competition as, a player coming into that situation. He's going to get a lot of it. We talked about the quarterback room. We're going to get to those guys in a little bit. Karson Cox committing to UCLA, another talented running back, 6 foot, 190 pounds. This is another big tailback. We got Cameron Jones coming in the fall. This guy's about 6'1", 6'2", tailback out there. Went to St. John's Bosco. These bigger running backs coming in. And the point I was making is, like, if you're a high school running back, think about this.
I know.
When UCLA calls your name with DeShaun Foster, who, like, listen, call me biased all you freaking want. This guy, for my money, was the best running backs coach in college football, or at least in the conversation. Yes, Tony Alford was great at what he was doing at Ohio State. All those guys were 4- or 5-star recruits to begin with, and they would probably had a decent shot of making the pros, making these all Big Ten, teams in general. When it comes to DeShaun Foster, we've talked about in the past, your Joshua Kellys, unranked really at UC Davis, comes down to UCLA. He's playing for the Chargers right now. Demetric Felton was a wide receiver, 3-star at that. Plug him in at the running back position. This guy is now in the NFL as a running back for the Cleveland Browns. Britton Brown, Duke, trying to figure out his whole career. Comes to UCLA, gets drafted by the Oakland or Las Vegas Raiders at this point. And then you got Charbonnet, a guy who was like, maybe the most talented of that group coming out of high school. But he rebuilt his confidence and made him look like, to me, I can't comment on the history as well as you have, Wayne, but in my time following UCLA football, and this even includes the likes of the great Maurice Jones-Drew, might be the best tailback I've ever seen in the blue and gold, if I'm being frankly honest with you. So knowing Foster's track record right there, now that he's a head coach, you have that going for you. Then you have Eric Bieniemy, a guy that played the position himself as well, coached up the likes of, Adrian Peterson, played in all these, big time environments, coached in all these big time environments, specifically with the running back position group. A guy that molded Maurice Jones-Drew into what he was, kind of the predecessor to DeShaun Foster in a lot of ways, comes the running backs coach at UCLA. How would you not want to come here? You're in Los Angeles, you're in Westwood. As a running back, it is a running back's paradise to play at UCLA. And I think Karson Cox realized that before a lot of other running backs have in the field.
So here's what's fun. And I don't want to have recency bias because I'll say this. I agree with what you said. I love Charbonnet. I got to talk to him the other day. I hope he goes on to have a great NFL career, but we have to be careful. Maurice Jones-Drew did it in the NFL for quite a while. DeShaun Foster did it in the NFL for quite a while. People like Freeman McNeil, Wendell Tyler. We've had some elite. Gaston Green was a really high draft pick. We've had Eric Ball. Holy cow, Jonathan Franklin. We've had so many great running backs, and I put Charbonnet in the mix of those running backs. But there's been so many great running backs, and I think people forget about that. Everybody wants to talk about the other school and their great running backs, but UCLA's had quite a few as well. But you're right. I thought the same thing. First of all, you see the pictures of Carson with DeShaun Foster. He's a big dude, and he looks like a full-grown man, and he's in high school. And so when you start adding in, some really talented players, and you put them with a coach, and you've talked about this before, Will, when you can, how do I say this? When you can MF some of the greatest running backs that have ever lived and get away with it, like Coach Bieniemy has done, at times, in his career, when he can, look at Adrian Peterson and say, whatever you're doing is not good enough, and probably much more colorful language, and have him respond to you. That's some serious clout. When you can be the offensive coordinator of a team with the Cheetah and Patrick Mahomes and all these great athletes that have gone through there, and Travis Kelce and all those people, and you can be, because Eric Bieniemy hasn't changed since the last time I saw him coach at UCLA. He's probably he's probably smarter because of all the experience he's got, but he's still that fiery, passionate. And by the way, if you ever watched him play running back when he was at Colorado, he was awesome. I remember, he's a little bit older than me, but I remember he was one of those guys when I was in high school. I was like, that guy's really good, because that's back when Colorado was awesome. So, yeah, you got a great head coach who's a great running back, who is a great coach. You've got your offensive coordinator that's a great running back coach. I'm with you 100%. If you're a recruit and you're a running back, just watch. I'm glad we added some pieces to the offensive line. I think it's really crucial. We talk about all this momentum, and we know that UCLA, I think I just read something the other day of the top 15 toughest schedules in the nation. They had UCLA at around 8 or 9 or something like that. That means it's harder than most people's. So if you have that kind of a schedule and UCLA comes out and runs the heck out of the football like I think they will, and has a really good season the way I think they will, I don't expect them to win every game. I hope they do, but I think we can have a really good season. That'll really help this even grow more, because now all this hype is going to turn in. Now look at what we're doing on the field. That's the key ingredient here.
Absolutely, man. And just to follow up on that point, I meant no disrespect to the greats that you mentioned.
I know you didn't. I just had to throw that out there because we know the Bruin Bible has some people that have been watching UCLA football forever. So totally. I love Sharps, and I think most people would agree with you. And by the way, Zach, if you're listening, this is like when Kane was listening, and I called him too skinny, and I still feel bad about that. But Sharps is a stud. I mean, this guy's one of the best running backs we've had at UCLA. But I also fond of that guy Maurice Jones-Drew and a lot of other guys as well. So I'm putting them all in that category.
I'll put it to you like this, Wayne. With just purely at the college level, what MJD did at the pros, I get it. It was impressive. He only had 1,000-yard season at UCLA, like running the ball.
Yeah.
And I mean, you look at what Charbonnet did his senior year, already after like a close to a 1,200-yard season, 13 touchdowns. Wayne, he had 1,400 yards roughly and 14 touchdowns, and he missed 3 games. Like Jonathan Franklin's record is in play here. You know, we're talking Skip Hicks's record, touchdown records in play here. There's a lot of signs that point to, like, if he finishes that year, there's a real chance he gets it going. So just a lot of great stuff going on.
So just for fun, because I love this. This is like now we're getting into some good old debate stuff. One of the things that I think matters, and this is the part that people need to pay attention to because I think this matters. All the running backs over the last several years that we just mentioned that had amazing years. And remember, stats are tricky too because we play more games than we used to. So you have that extra 12th game. But Chip Kelly's system was made for the run game. Like, I mean, it really, like, we were playing like Carl Durrell was more West Coast. And it was good. But I would argue that one of the things that Chip Kelly did really well was, if you remember a couple of years ago, that offensive line was really good, like really, really good. Like some of the running backs that I played with back in the day got to run behind one of the best offensive lines in the history of our school with Jonathan Ogden and Mike Flanagan and Vaughn Parker and Craig Nowitzki and Craig Stevens. And those guys were just absolute maulers, all of them NFL players. And literally, and I love all the running backs, but we had fullbacks run for 100 yards in games because there was huge holes. Those guys were amazing. I mean, one of them was probably the best offensive lineman of all time. And yet, and by the way, you can argue with me if you want to, but John's the best. But when you have a great run scheme and it's not always the same. Some of those years and some of those running backs had to play behind offensive lines were a little shaky at times. So it's all debatable. But you know what? That's why the heavies matter so much. You bring in the big boys, and you have a great run scheme, and you can do some damage.
Yeah, man. Green, Tyler, MJD, Charbonnet, these are all the greats that toted the rock. DeShaun Foster, our current head coach, some of the greats that toted the rock at UCLA. Whichever one you pick, there's not really a bad answer in there. So a lot of great stuff on those running backs, man. And I think this kind of, goes into our last question. It's a 2-part question. Another quarterback coming in potentially for UCLA. The rumor mill, the predictions, the crystal balls, if you will. Steve Wiltfong, who's a legend in the recruiting game. They call them Fong Bombs when he does a crystal ball. Madden, and forgive me if I pronounce his last name wrong. It's Malafu. His brother was a big-time recruit at Tennessee a couple years ago. Madden was crystal ball to UCLA this past weekend. And one of the events that really caught the eye of UCLA football fans was the Mother's Day event that they put on campus. And, to kind of touch towards the recruiting, the beginning of the episode, just the efforts, doing the little things when it comes to recruiting to really get out there and connect with these recruits. This event went very swimmingly, as we saw on social media. Already got a commitment, maybe another one coming in this week. Just talk to me about what this means potentially for Madden to come in, another talented quarterback, which makes me think about back in your day. You come in after Troy Aikman, you're competing with Tommy Maddox. You got all these quarterbacks competing at the top of their ability, kind of touching on that Kaylin Moore conversation we were talking about. So you got those guys coming in. And what does it mean for UCLA football to be putting on these events where it's connecting with the community and potential high-level recruits like it is right now?
We'll start with that second part first because I think it ties into what we talked about at the beginning of the show. It's awesome. It's UCLA's everywhere right now. They're everywhere. The Friday Night Lights, the spring game, the hosting events, the Mother's Day stuff. They're everywhere. Like they're every single part, every part. I don't care if you're part of the recruiting staff all the way through all the coaches. They're doing an amazing job. And as alumni watching, it's been like I almost want to say it's about time. Like it's like, gosh, this is so refreshing. And so it's really cool to see. Obviously, we're starting to catch the eye, as you just pointed out with the recruit, the quarterback. Some big time talent. Guys that, we've done that before. I mean, we do pretty well with bringing in the Josh Rosens and the Brett Hundleys and we've been able to land some quarterbacks. But here's what I love about the second part of your question. When I came to UCLA, I've told this story a million times, but when I walked onto campus and I watched, I'd been to a bunch of games and I saw Troy Aikman play, and I'm a skinny, 180 pound, 6'4" kid who looked at Troy Aikman in the locker room sitting there with some 1980 shorts on, and he would look like a linebacker. I'm like, oh my God, that's Troy Aikman. He's built. Am I going to look like that? Which, by the way, I never did end up looking like that. But I mean, I was like, wow. And I watched him practice, and I was blown away with how good he was. And I joke around because my dad was with me at this one visit, and he goes, "What do you think?" And he goes, "Can you play here?" Because my dad wanted me to be smart enough to pick a school that I thought I could compete. And I said, I got to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback that's that good before. And I'm being serious. I'd never seen a guy throw like that. Troy Aikman was like so accurate and so good. I was like, I don't think I could beat him out. He goes, that's fine. He's graduating. He goes, what about the other guys? And I go, yeah, I got him. I go, I just really felt like I got him. And when I came to UCLA, I knew that Tommy Maddox was recruited, and I knew that Bert Emanuel was recruited. So just like what we're talking about, there could be a logjam of 3 or 4 really good, highly ranked quarterbacks. When you think about the transfer from Washington, and then if you bring in this kid that you just mentioned, and then the quarterbacks we brought in from this current recruiting class that are coming in the fall, there's going to be a lot of young quarterbacks. You want that. Every quarterback out there, man, you want to look to your right, your left, and every year, even after I became the starter, after Bert Emanuel transferred and went on to be a great receiver, by the way, and Tommy Maddox, left and entered the draft, and I was a little bit behind him because I blew my knee out. But the idea was, when I became the starter, I didn't sit back and think they weren't going to bring anybody else in. I knew they were going to bring someone else. Here comes Ryan Fiend. Here comes Rob Walker. Here comes all these people that are like, yeah, I'm going to come in and take your job. And you constantly have to compete. And that's what's awesome about this. If you're an athlete that Sean Foster wants, you don't look at the other quarterbacks and say, oh, I don't want to go there because you have too many other good quarterbacks. You want to go there. It's like the Manning kid at Texas. He didn't just go, oh, Quinn Ewers is there, I'm not going to show up. Did you see what Manning did? I forget his first name right now, but what he did. Did you see what he did at the spring game? He went off. I mean, that guy would be the starter at a lot of schools, but he's going to bide his time. He's going to get better. And then when Quinn Ewers goes to the NFL after this season, then that guy steps in and he is ready to play right away. Like the old days, where young quarterbacks had to sit and learn and watch. And then when they stepped in, there was my first full year as a starter, we won a championship. I was a junior, right? That was my first full season as a starter. If you do that as a freshman, you usually have to go through some growing pains. Think back to Dorian Thompson-Robinson. His first 2 years were not anywhere near as good as his last 2 years, especially his last year. So I don't know. I love it. I love what's happening. I love the competition. We talked about our receiver room before. Yeah. How many really, who's gonna play X? I don't know. Who's gonna? I think I know who Z's gonna be, but who's gonna? I know who our starting tight end is. I don't know who the other ones are because they're all fighting for that spot. So I don't know who our offensive line is gonna be at the beginning of the year. I don't know who our center is gonna be at the beginning of the year. That's can be good. I know people out there going, oh, that kind of scares me. No. There's so much good competition that people are going to be fighting for those spots.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, Wayne. Just a lot of great stuff coming on here. That quarterback room is deep if we get Madden as the crystal ball projects. Man, just a lot to look forward to as UCLA fans. Yep.
Just quickly, and I know you're getting ready to close this out here. We did pick up, I know you did. Did we pick up another kicker? Did we end up? I want to say, I don't know if it's happened in the last couple of weeks.
I know we got one in the offseason, but here's what we just got from Butler Benton earlier today. Stay tuned. We're just getting started.
Yeah, I know that. I saw that.
So he's the recruiting director for UCLA. I mean, there's just a lot of good stuff going on, man. So, Wayne, thank you so much for coming on, man. We are having a blast with this UCLA offseason. Hopefully it continues all the way throughout the football season. Thank you so much for coming on, man. This was awesome.
Will, it's always a blast, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, guys. See you soon. We'll be back. Bruin Bible.